We're doing student choice today with the infamous Deb Cullen, and we're excited about having her. Wish everybody and his grandmother would come and watch her. She's very high energy and will give us something to leave here with. So without further ado.
Or I'll give you a reason to leave, one way or the other.
We'll do the dance. Rock it, Deb.
Okay, I'm so glad that you chose to spend 3 to 6 with me after school today. I'm real excited about that. It's pajama day. We should have had pajamas on if I'd known. I so wore my pajamas. But anyway, as she said, we are doing student choice today. And we're going to be doing a lot of activity today. Because I think sometimes the best way to learn things is to do it. And that way, as you're doing it, you're thinking about how can I apply this to my classroom and to my students and to my school. Also, it's better than sitting there for 3 hours looking at me. Trust me. Anyway, so my email address is on there. It's changed since the last time, but I am edconsulting@deborahcullen.com. Please feel free to email me with questions, concerns, comments, snide remarks, song requests, anything you want. I can actually email this to her if you'd like for me to do that after so that you can have these items. I have no problem doing that. So let's giddy up and go. Ben Franklin said, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn." And I think that's a good quote. Hey, I think that's a good quote. Ben didn't like me using that. Nope. I think that's a good quote for student choice because that's basically what we're trying to get to the core of. We're trying to get to the core of having students engage and involved. And that becomes increasingly more difficult the more we have to deal with technology and all those things. So how in the world do we get our students to be involved and engaged? Some of the data from the source is a book called The Highly Engaged Classroom, and you're more than welcome to take a look at this. But have any of you heard of Marzano? Sure. Yes.
Oh Lord, I got that in some shelf
You have this book in some shelf?
somewhere. Yes.
Somewhere. All right, well, I'm going to actually pull some stuff out so you don't even have to read it anymore. Benjamin Franklin even said back here, he also said, never read a book without a pen in your hand. And that for the very reason, because in these kinds of books, you know, you're not going to always read these kind of books cover to cover. You may go through the table of contents and look through things, and this is something that we want to encourage our kids to do too. But highlight and write in these books, so when you do go back, you can just look at the stuff you highlighted and wrote in, and you don't have to worry about going through that whole book again to find a resource. So, according to Marzano and all of his research, there are 4 questions that our students are asking themselves continually over the day and the times they're in our classrooms. It's doing it more.
It's your thing in my ball.
You think it's my thing in my ball?
I think, but it's okay.
You think I should take my thing in my ball down there?
No,
Anyway,
we'll
just-
swing it.
All right. It's like my magic fairy dust here.
Oh.
Okay, so one of the main questions the students are asking themselves, first of all, is how do I feel? We know from all kinds of studies that students are, first of all, we have to make sure that they're not hungry and they're not thirsty and they're not hot and they're not cold and it's the bathroom and they have whatever. So that in and of itself is a huge question, and it's a growing question. That's where we come into the social and emotional learning now, having to address those social emotional learning and those needs. We're coming into kids who have been traumatized and how are we doing those kinds of things. The next question they're asking is, am I interested? Some of them are interested, but because of those how do I feel things, sometimes get pulled the other way. Then it comes really down to the cognitive part. Is this important? This is where we have talked about, I think a lot of research is going toward the why. Having our students to know the why of their learning. Because if they don't know why they're doing it, they don't know why it's important. And finally, can I do this? Do I have the ability to be able to do what this teacher is asking me to do? So those are the 4 questions that are continuing to go. Engagement is defined by importance. If the information is not deemed important, I think this is fascinating. The working memory will not maintain it for long. So this is scientific. This is how the brain functions. The more that we're doing research with the brain, that literally, if it is not deemed important, like some of you right now are like, man, I'm just getting my 3 hours. It's okay, I understand. But your brain will literally not remember it. And if students do not believe they can perform the task, the brain will reject it. I'm a perfect example of that. Math, a lot of things, but math for me was not something necessarily that I am bad at, but I didn't, like, when I would look at it, it was so foreign to me that I instantly shut down and just decided I couldn't do it. And I see you nodding, head nods. Are you all talking about math too? Yeah? What are some other things that you just, I can't do it? Bills. Flipping taxes. Do you know I worked for myself for 2 years before I realized I was supposed to be taking taxes out? Thank God for payment plans, is all I can say. So your brain will literally reject this kind of information, and I think that that's so true. That's so true, and it made me feel better once I realized that this is actually a physical brain thing. That it's not just because you're lazy. It's not because they're lazy. It's just that they don't think it's important and don't think they can do it. What do? Let's self-assess first of all. I have a student motivation survey, and this is something that we're going to perform individually. So let me give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank you.
This doesn't involve math.
No, I was shut down.
I just have to cook for my sister-in-law, she does my package.
Oh my gosh, maybe I'll have to cook for you, should be mine too. 2 years I worked for myself and didn't know I was supposed to take taxes out. You don't think I'm not on a payment plan, do you? Ooh.
Oh, I'm on a payment plan just because.
Speaking of weird.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this survey. And basically what I want you to do is you're going to go through and just kind of rate yourself. So for each one, you have at letter A. The first ones are talking about the students, your students are actively engaged. So this is your classroom, how well you're doing motivating and engaging your students. This is just for you. But you may write right on these and just kind of assess yourself. Let's take 4 minutes and just circle where you think you are in those specific areas.
Sorry about that.
I'm definitely getting to be what we're on already. It's down to you. What's that face? down to about a minute and a half. I mean, it makes me want to slap it, that's. It probably is. Well, that thing is this stuff. This. Oh, yeah. If that was what it was.
What I kind of thought at first, and now I'm tracking.
As you're finishing up, I want you to identify your greatest strength on that and your 2 areas of weakness. Where do you feel like, yeah, I am rocking it? And where do you feel like, I could use a little more oomph? Time for your church. I had to change it because the last PD that I did, the guy says, after the whole PD's over, people are coming up to me and asking questions. He comes up and he goes, I hate the buzzer. I was like, is that all you got out of it? He goes, you need to change that. Just walked off. I was like, okay. Jeez. Don't like my buzzer. All right. So, let's kind of discuss this. First of all, how many of you, or you don't actually have to ask, but do any of you use surveys in your classrooms? Have you ever thought about using a survey in your classroom? I see a few heads. Where do you normally use them? School surveys.
It's defined.
What's that?
It's defined, that's certain. We use that for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Assessment.
All right, some formative assessment, good. Surveys are something that entice kids at the beginning of something even. And I think that sometimes, I don't think as a teacher I ever used surveys at the beginning. It was always a way to kind of culminate and reflect. But it's kind of an interesting way to see where students are and how they feel. It's a great way to assess where you can add some choice, where there's interest, where there are areas that kids think I'm rocking this, and where there are instances of people thinking, well, maybe I need to work on this a little bit. Kids are surprisingly honest on surveys. It's unbelievable. They're almost even too hard on themselves. Have you ever noticed that with surveys? They'll mark themselves a lot. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I wonder what the ratio is. It'd be interesting to find out. Gentlemen, I'm not really being sexist, but I want to ask a question. Are you hard on yourselves too?
Yes. I think we're afraid to be good at something. I'm sorry, ma'am.
It's okay.
That's okay.
It's okay. Are you guys harder on yourselves too? Or do you feel like, no, I'm pretty much, it's okay if you say,
I'm going to answer for Chris, because I know he's not hard. He's
Well, I
definitely
didn't
not
say
hard.
anything.
Chris answered.
He thinks he's all that in a bag of potato chips.
and that's okay.
Grip ups.
I'm always taking data because I think that women are always harder on themselves than men are.
I would probably agree with
Do you think that's true?
that.
Do you find that true in classrooms with students? Do you think that gentlemen students are easier on themselves than the girls are?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I think that's true. I think that that's definitely a true thing. Let me hear some of you tell me, if you're willing to, what are some of the areas like, you know what, yes, I engage my students here. According to your surveys, what were some of the areas where you're like, yeah, my students are motivated and engaged in that? Everybody really despises themselves.
Well, I mean, with social studies, it's, but we're all
where it talks about their life experiences, real life application. We do that constantly,
Absolutely.
day in and day out.
How is that a student motivator? They don't dread coming to the class. Which question could that possibly answer up there?
How do I feel?
How do I feel? Am I interested? Is this important? Can I do this? Those situations with what you just said, it's real because they can relate it to their lives. It's interesting. They can do it because it's about them. So that's one of those areas where it's really good to give kids choice when they can relate it to them. Give me some other areas that you thought, yeah, I'm doing a good job at that. It's okay to brag on yourselves a little.
I do with feedback and grading practices.
What was the particular thing that made you think that?
Which one of the sections you're talking about?
Yeah, like what in there
My
that you read?
rubrics and models.
Models. I think as a teacher, my feedback was probably my lowest. Timely feedback.
But I'm doing PD.
PE and health, okay.
So that's the difference.
Right. I struggled as a teacher with my essays. I was an English teacher, getting them back on time because I thought I had to grade everything. I no longer think that. I no longer think that at all. So, yeah, that was something I struggled with. I'm glad you're good at that because that's a high motivation thing. What are some other things that you thought you did well at?
I said student choice.
Good.
So.
So can you do this PD for me because I'm
No,
exhausted?
no, no, oh, wait, no.
Now I'm teasing you.
Wait, time out. Rewind.
Yes, I'm an expert. I'm kidding. So let me hear about your choice.
So it wasn't student choice. Let me rephrase that. Choice in, I said because I teach in a project base,
Yay.
where they get to choose sometimes the assessments, or they get to choose what type of technology they want to use, or how they're going to present, or, so there's a lot of, different options for them there, so.
Absolutely. So you do have a lot of student choice, and that's going to be high engagement.
Yeah, but I can't do
I was just joking. I didn't really want you to.
Sure you can, you click, click, click.
I'll let you choose. You choose how you do it. Okay, so now let's get honest. What are some areas you think, maybe I need to up my game a little bit on that?
I struggle with relevance for my
Okay.
kids because they can't see past the idea of, I'm never going to make another pot again when I leave this art class. I just got to do it, and she lets me listen to music while I do it, so whatever. So I struggle with getting them to understand that they're not just making a pot, and they're not just painting, that, we're learning not so much a curriculum, so much as skill sets and critical thinking skills and creative thinking skills, and how to apply that when they are in the job market. Like, how is that going to give them a leg up? I have trouble getting them past that, I'm never going to do this again.
Right.
To,
one of those.
you might not ever paint, but you'll use these skills.
I think that it's very enlightening, and I don't think I've ever known the need for creativity and creative thought process more now that I have my children. I have one who is so regimented that anything that comes creative in his world, if he has to be creative in a school project, he loses his ever-loving mind. Like literally,
Our mastery learners are the ones whose grades suffer the most in my classroom.
I believe it
They
100%.
live out.
Michael Collin has 104% average in everything, and when he has to do a subjective assignment, he literally has panic attacks. He has no idea how to be creative, and that skill set,
Because they're afraid of being wrong.
they're afraid of being wrong, and we set them up that way. But that creative skill set is something that they need in order to be able to be a problem solver.
To be adaptive.
Absolutely, you have to adapt constantly. That's all I did today was adapt. I did it poorly, but I did it. But yeah, absolutely. The relevance too, I think that is coming along with the arts and sciences and things like that too, is this new focus on social emotional learning. My gosh, the things that they're doing for their emotions with creating, the way that they're handling stress, the way that they're handling depression, anxiety, all come from that kind of thing too. But I see, so what kind of things do you think are going to be, like, what are you trying to pull in to help them understand the relevance? Or are you saying that's what I need to?
Well, that's part of it. Like, some of my kids, it's really easy. They come to my classroom because they know if they go to an arts and humanities class, forget it, because they're gonna have to write papers, and they're gonna, and so a lot of times I do get the kids who are hands-on, who struggle with, like written work. And
Right.
they struggle, they don't communicate well, but they're really good with their hands, like they do really well in shop, or in, mechanics, or whatever, so they come to me because it's still hands-on.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? So for them, it's, you know, it's easy. Well, you paint your truck. What color you want? Why? Okay. And so to them, that those relevance to what they're actually doing is a little easier, makes a little more
Right.
sense. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
yeah, I do.
But then when I have people who say, I'm going to school to be an oncologist when I leave here. So,
How is that
you know,
relevant?
and in my head, I know that, you know, creative thinking, that leads to innovation and that leads to cures. But
Getting them there for that.
yes.
Okay.
I need those bridges. If you could teach me how to build a bridge, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
I don't like your bridges. I like theoretical bridges. Theoretical bridges.
Sorry. I thought it was kind of funny.
Honey, oh, get thee to a punnery. Okay.
If I teach you, if we teach them how to build your bridges, well, I don't know, maybe we should
I
teach
do.
them how to build
You
your
come down and
bridges.
teach
Maybe
my kids
maybe my class numbers
How
are
to do
lower.
perspective
make a lot of
sketch
ceramic.
is what you need to teach my kids.
Well, I mean, in all honesty, I think that this is something that we could do
This
to
is the
bridge
first time
that.
ever, this is my 8th year in the classroom, and this is the first year ever, speaking of perspective, that kids have not preferred 2 point over 1 point, ever.
Which was it, that we had the engineering teacher and the other teacher working the same?
And I had to show the engineering teacher how to put the tree stand up,
Listen,
and then I made it real.
Hey, my ex-husband's an engineer, so I'm not getting in this conversation at all.
all right, I'll take it.
Okay, very insightful, very insightful. What are some other things, honestly, that we feel like, I need to,
Well, I looked for a zero, but it wasn't there for choice.
because you're not in the choice mode. Okay? And I firmly,
I'm here.
no, I,
I'll admit it.
absolutely.
I mean, I may have one assignment a year.
I told her before I came in that this is the kind of PD where you have people who are all for it or all against it.
No, it's not that I'm not against it, I just don't do
You
it.
don't do it, okay? We're gonna have some discussions about that. But why don't you do it?
I just haven't had any ideas of where to do it or how to do it.
Okay, that's very honest and reflectional.
I have one assignment that I don't do every year,
Okay, don't tell us about it yet, because we're gonna do an activity about that, so.
but other than that, I don't ever give them a choice, I just tell them what to do.
Well, traditionally, as teachers, we are very much control freaks.
Yeah.
Very much control freaks. So that's something that I don't know if a lot of people say, but is true about most of us. Why don't you all do choice?
It's a dictatorship.
I'm all about it.
She,
I am.
If you came to our class, we're literally next door to each other. In my classroom, everybody's sitting in booths, and my desk looks like a disaster. In her classroom, you walk into her living room, and everything is in line. And I'm not insulting her. But she
No, I know,
has
but-
been 25 years.
Different.
She is in straight rows, everything looks the same.
And I bet you both had the same results, right?
And I may or may not just totally look at.
That's why God made us all
You
different.
can see the complete opposite by looking at it.
Right. And you both are effective in your classrooms.
It's just like,
That's amazing.
wow.
Uh-oh, look out.
I'm really high on penalties on teacher expectation.
You're high on teacher expectation?
Let me show what I put. I think yes, of course.
Yeah.
So your kids know what they are going to be doing and they know how you want them to do it?
The most I will do in choice is do arguing side.
Okay.
In an essay.
Okay.
Choose your side. Choose your side.
yeah, I felt like I was a little low on teacher expectation, just because it says all students, most students, some students. And I don't know that I don't know, I'm bad, because I come from school of hard knocks, I'm bad at like, well, you know, either you get it or you don't, but I try to be better about that.
Right.
That's hard.
So let me ask you this, people who are high in choice, are you low in teacher expectations? And vice versa?
Say that again.
Are people who are high choice, if you scored yourself higher on the choice end, are you lower on teacher expectation end?
I was.
And those of you who are high teacher expectation, lower on choice.
I don't,
Hey, what'd you
I don't think I lower my expectations, but I'm more lenient on the timeline in which I expect those results. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah, I don't
set
necessarily mean
my standard,
lenient.
but Like if they need more time, they need more time.
Right, right. And I bet they're like, there's a time limit and this is how it's going.
Yeah, if you ain't got your stuff into Midland on time, you're hurting.
Too bad. Too bad. Oh, are there any other areas you want to share with me that we can talk about? Because this is all setting the stage for the next part that we're going into. Where are we? That thing is driving me crazy. Okay, so keep those to the side. We will be revisiting those. But now let's take a look at a couple things from the book that I was talking about. What does research say? Research has shown that providing choices to students of all age levels often increases their intrinsic motivation. And that is where we're trying to go. Now, you said something interesting about being from a school from Hard Knocks. I am as well. I'm an empath, but I'm still in the school of Hard Knocks. And so sometimes, especially with my own children, I'm like, you don't have any choice. Do it and shut up. But you don't necessarily have that power in your classroom also. You do want them to be intrinsically motivated. You do want them to be able to do this thing because they know it's important and because they know it's going to build character and build their skill sets. Also, choice in the classroom has also been linked to increases in student effort, task performance, and subsequent learning. So when we take a look at those things, student effort, task performance, and subsequent learning, then we can't deny that it is something that we need to sprinkle into our curriculum. I think sometimes, and I know when I was a teacher and I would sit in professional developments, I would always feel like they were telling me, okay, I need to stop everything I'm doing and do this now. Please remember, we are flooded with initiatives. We are flooded with ideas. We are flooded with stuff. All right? It takes 3 to 5 years for an initiative to truly be done in order to understand whether it's working. And oftentimes in education, we switch like every 2, right? This year we're going to do this, no, we're going to do it forever. Oh, never mind, we're going to do this forever. Oh, never mind, we're going to do this forever. I see lots of smiles and head bobs because you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now,
And then we switch it.
and then you switch it again, right? I liken what I'm getting ready to say to the story of Ruth in the Bible. In the Bible, Ruth was widowed, and she had to, and I don't know the whole thing about it, but she had to go and she was taking care of her mother-in-law, and the only way she could get food is if she gleaned in the fields after they had already been taken in. She kind of went and took in the little bits of grain that she could get on her own. That's kind of how I function as a teacher with these initiatives. In all of these things, because they have been proven with data and they've been tried and true, there's always something we can glean, a little bit of information. I am hesitant to ever take an initiative and say, let's stop what I'm doing and I'm going to do it all this way. So remember, when we're talking about this student choice, if you're doing one student choice every other year, maybe try another small area. If that works, try a little bit more. Don't take it as I'm saying this is what you need to do. Stop everything else you're doing. This is just another portion of the pie that we do as teachers. So remember when I'm saying that I'm not telling you this is the end-all be-all. It's something that has been proven to help with subsequent learning, and I think because of that, then we can give it some credit. All right, so let's talk about what we're already doing. The first thing I want to give you is something called more bang for your buck. 4, 5, 6, take one, pass it around. Only got 5 more things to I keep forgetting to be a video thing, so I gotta be careful on mine now. All right.
Thank you, Gerald.
So at the top of this actually says literacy practices, 3 literacy practices. I want you to mark literacy practices out and put student choice practices. Now, if you're one of the teachers who's like, I don't do a lot of student choice, this could be anywhere. This could be with behavior, it could be with an assignment, it could be with anything. So I literally mean, what are the things in your classroom that you consider to be the 3 best ways you give your students choice. And if you can't come up with 3, that may be possible. Our goal, our big target is 3. So take, 3 minutes? And I want you to write in each one of those boxes one area in your classroom, whether it be classroom management, activity, whatever, and tell me your best bang for the buck for student choice. You're all looking at me like, oh crap. Do the best you can, okay? 3 minutes. Don't stress. And look, just scribble in there, it's okay. We're going to be doing something with it more too. Yeah, don't feel like all that blank space is just for you.
But I feel like it's
Like each group can choose a song and then write this selection.
As you're finishing this up, I'm going to pass out another paper that we're going to use in a moment.
I won't come up with one. No.
Do they pick their seat? No.
Nope.
Do they pick their pencil? Nope.
I see them like children. And
You don't have room for pick.
you don't choose your seats or later because they're parked behind you. Maybe you're in the choice.
So
Or after school relation.
You should put Americans.
Well, 30 seconds.
I have tons and I know I do, but now that I'm on the spot, I'm like, oh.
They choose product, do they choose, do they do a number of things and then choose which one to turn in? Do they?
Okay, so the last one, can refer to it.
The Jetsons, yes.
Every time that. It's like, I don't know.
Well, I'm still waiting for that self-cleaning house.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I saw a lot of people struggle. All right? Okay. Then there's a need for this training. There's a need. There is a need for us to be able to sit down and say, okay, maybe I do need to provide more choice. There's also a possibility that you do give more choice that you're not thinking of yet. So let's talk to the experts in our building, each other. You are the experts. Now, the next thing I'm going to give you is something, I already gave it to you actually, is something called My Clock Buddies. This is a time saver and a half, and it offers student choice. What? Okay, so with this, you know a lot of times you have kids getting into pairs, and maybe you don't do it because it's always such a cluster. Then you say, get a pair up, and 13 people want to pair up with the same girl, and then no, they're mad at each other, so they're crying, and I don't want to, there's always little Johnny who's left out. So, lots of situations. So My Clock Buddies, you can have done it, you can do it at the beginning of the week, the beginning of class, the beginning of the semester, at the beginning of the grading period, however you want to do it. but it will save time. So every time that you need them to pair up, you can say, okay, everybody, I want you to pair up with your 9 o'clock partner. Done, it's done, all right? So, what I want you to do right now is we're gonna make 4 appointments. So, I want you to make an 11, a 1, a 5, and a 7. 11, 1, 5, 7. So you're going to go around the room and you're going to see someone who has a blank spot and say, hey, do you have 11 o'clock partner? No, no I don't. Let's be each other's 11 o'clock partner. He'll put my name on his, I'll put my name on his name on mine, and then I move on until I have all 4 spots together. So this keeps you from pairing them up all the time, and this keeps them from pairing themselves up with the same person all the time. So it's going to be a mixture. It's such a good time saver. So let's take a few moments. Everyone get up. Try to go to a different table and make an 11, a 1, a 7, and a 5 o'clock partner.
Wait, I was gonna ask
Buddy, your buddy, your buddy.
Here, Rich, you really want to be my 11 o'clock partner?
You can, or you can write it in the line, I write
Okay. What do you got?
You want me to want to be some 25?
I'm all booked at 11.
currently
Let's go meet
looking,
with 5.
Okay.
I do,
All right.
actually, you read my mind.
5 o'clock, 5 o'clock. You need a, I need a 5 o'clock.
I do,
Wait,
I do.
wait, a 9?
Yes,
I thought it was
I
just
said 7.
11, 1, 5, and 7.
11, 1, 5, 7.
Okay.
Let's just
That's
call it.
why I said my example.
You need a 1?
I need 11.
11.
I still need a 7 o'clock.
I need a 1. I need an 11.
5.
Okay, 1 and 7.
I need a 7 o'clock.
I need a 7.
One,
I need a 5.
I need a 7 o'clock.
Go fish.
I need a 5 o'clock.
I got a 7.
Anybody got a 5 free?
Anybody got a 7?
I'm all booked.
I need an 11.
I need a 7. I need a 7.
Oh, Richard, you have to be pretty.
I don't know, which is scary, isn't it?
anybody need a 7?
I didn't have to leave.
I need a 7.
I need a 7.
I'm not doing 11
I
myself.
can't use the same one twice, can I?
Is there anybody else who does not have an 11 o'clock partner?
Really lonely.
There's not that.
Okay, so pair up with one other couple there that has 11.
Who's your other 11?
I need a 5.
Anybody have a 5 open?
Maybe you can still do a 7.
Yeah, but we're gonna do a.
I can't use 3.
Harsh. Harsh.
I'll be using their 5.
Sure.
I don't have one.
It's really
Yeah.
good.
Anybody else have a 7 up, and if not, pair up with another group. Sometimes that happens, you're not gonna have everybody